The divine goodness is inexhaustible. The ceremony of extreme unction is about to begin. Come. Hello everyone, today is September 27th, 2024, and we are here with another War and Peace Diary. So we left off where there was a party at the Rostovs, and then Count Bezukhov had his sixth stroke. And so everyone was preparing for him to transition, right? So Pierre meets his father, right? They have their final meeting together. And I thought it was really touching because his father seemed really happy for him to be there. Of course, Pierre didn't know what to do. So he kept looking at Anna to help him, instruct him, okay, grab his hand, kiss his hand, go sit next to him, and this and that. And so, but while everyone was in the room just being around Count Bezukhov, Prince Vasily and Katerina goes into his back room because they're trying to find his papers. Oh my gosh, I got super annoyed. I was like, that is so disrespectful. Everyone leaves the room and then they try and go back inside. So Prince Vasily and Katerina, they try and go back inside, but Anna blocks the door. And it's so funny how this whole thing happened because I feel like I said before, I feel like Anna knew what was going on. And so she blocks the door to prevent them from going inside the room. Katerina and Anna kind of have a little tug of war, and Katerina is making a scene, right? And Prince Vasily, he sits down and he seems really anxious. But then the youngest daughter comes out and she goes off. She's like, "Are you guys serious?" She doesn't say those words verbatim, but she's pretty much like, "Are you guys serious? Come on now, he's gone." And then with that announcement, reality hits for both Katerina and Prince Vasily, and Katerina storms off. She tells Pierre, "I hope you're happy. This is what you've been wanting." She leaves, and Prince Vasily is stuck in his shame. And Anna does not hesitate to go back to the Rostovs and discuss the events, right, to the ladies. Now, the talk of Petersburg is of Pierre and how he is now a legitimate son. He is now known as Count Bezukhov, and he is a wealthy bachelor. And people waste no time playing matchmaker. And so, according to a letter from Julie, we'll get into that a little bit, they are pretty much saying, okay, Pierre should be with Julie. But Julie doesn't want him because she's in love with Nikolai. Yeah, she writes about this in a very poetic letter to her childhood friend, Princess Maria Bolkonsky, who is Andrei's younger sister. We are then moved to Bald Hills. This is in the country. We're introduced to Andrei's father. His name is Prince Nikolai Andreevich Bolkonsky. He was known as the King of Persia back in his day, and he was banished to the countryside, but he was still permitted entry to the capitals, right? So he spends his days routinely homeschooling Mariah with little to no patience, writing his memoirs, and turning snuff boxes on a lathe. Bolkonsky did not play when it came to order and precision. It was consistent with his daily routines and maintaining the same schedule no matter what. He also didn't shy away from throwing bits of tantrums, like throwing Mariah's book when he lost his patience with her, or throwing a plate when Andrei shared his opposing stance on something. Despite his strictness and outbursts and deep fear of her father, Mariah viewed him in such a high regard and didn't allow anyone to pass judgments on him. During her geometry lesson, Bolkonsky tells Mariah that she received a letter from her friend Julie. He takes the third letter and reads it for what other reason other than to expose his intrusive nature. She then goes to her room and reads about how, although the talk of the town is about the war, the people still found the time and interest to discuss Pierre, his wealth, and whom he should marry, and informs her about Anatoly. Julie also says in a letter that Anatoly was heard to be a bad guy, right? So not so well behaved, a bad boy. But this detail doesn't bother Mariah, for she is of the belief that if this was what God had intended, then she would do God's will to the best of her abilities. After that, Liza and Andrei arrive, and Lisa and Mariah share a heartwarming embrace full of smiles and tears of joy, despite only meeting each other one time at the wedding. It was very dramatic indeed. They waited for Bolkonsky to arrive at dinner, and once they get to talking. Bolkonsky, he mockingly tells his architect about what Andrei has told him about their military plans, claiming that it was juvenile and that the only way they could get around Napoleon was by getting the Frenchmen to fight each other. Bolkonsky also believes that Napoleon is a worthless little Frenchman who was born lucky and was only successful because he had excellent soldiers and got his popularity because he beat the Germans. So that's pretty much where we left off with that. So my thoughts on the situation. One thing that I want to know is what Nikolai said to Julie when they parted ways. I'm trying to figure out why she has it in her head that why is she so smitten by him? I know he flirts with her a little bit, but she mentioned how he said something to her. She didn't want to disclose it in the letter, but I'm not saying that he's talking to Julie and talking to Sonia. Is this going to be some kind of love triangle going on here? Because I'm here for it. So I want to talk about Mariah a little bit. Leo says that she's pretty unattractive. She walks around, she's scary pretty much. She's really timid. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that her father is her teacher. Her father is really strict. And so she pretty much walks around in fear. She's pretty anxious all the time. And I think a lot of that wears on her face. The way that she talks about God in her letter to Julie, that spoke a lot about her character as well. And it spoke a lot about how she felt about herself in life. She was more so a servant as opposed to I'm taking the bull by the horns and I decide my destiny. Now, to me, I'm a surrender, but sometimes when I come across characters like this, my eye twitches a little bit because it's the character doesn't drive the plot. The plot pretty much moves the character. So the character is the pawn. And so the character kind of feels boring or flat to me, especially when the character doesn't really do anything. And so it does come across lifeless. But I'm really interested to see how Mariah handles marrying Anatole, especially with him having such a negative reputation and being extremely irresponsible. Reading about Prince Bolkonsky. Right, so the prince who in his life kept firmly social distinctions and rarely admitted even important provincial officials to the table, suddenly decided to demonstrate by means of the architect Mikhail Ivanovich, who used to blow his nose in the corner on a checkered handkerchief, that all men are equal, and more than once impressed it upon his daughter that Mikhail Ivanich was no worse than you or I. So he is a person who, although he is strict, he doesn't come across as prejudiced. And when it comes down to religion, when he reads Julie's third letter, he acknowledges that she talks of religion. And he made a comment about how even though they talk about nonsense in their letters, when it comes down to a person's religion, he doesn't get involved with that, right? People are allowed to believe what they want to believe. I don't know if he's an atheist or whatever the case may be, but someone made a comment about God or whatever, and he was has nothing to do with God. It was everything that I've done, I've accomplished it. So there is a level of respect that he shows to people, but to me, he just comes across as a grumpy old man who is stuck in his ways and reminds me of those bitter back in my days guys who thought their time was the best time to be alive, and anyone born after their generation were just incompetent and unintelligent. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna go now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys were able to enjoy yourselves. So let me know if you guys are reading War and Peace. What do you guys think? Are you enjoying it? Until next time, peace.